welcome back to another episode of Cleared by the Kriegers, your guide to global freight. I'm Kimberly Kilgore, and I'm joined with my co-host, Jerry Williams.
Hello.
We are part of the Client Services Department here at Krieger Worldwide, and we're so excited to bring you another episode of Coffee and Containerships. We have this podcast every week to bring you your weekly dose of logistics news to have alongside your daily dose of caffeine. We've got a lot to cover today, so we're going to jump right in from the ILA Port Strike to Hurricane Helene, customs advisories, and a little information on technology and your supply chain. Today's episode should provide industry insights you can action. So with that, let's get right into it.
All right. Well, we're recording this on Thursday as Hurricane Helene is approaching the Big Bend region in Florida. Most of Florida's ports were shut down on Thursday to brace for what meteorologists are calling a deadly Category 2 storm. Helene is forecast to hit Florida between 9 and 11 p.m. Thursday night, and the National Hurricane Center warns that it's expected to strengthen even more as it approaches.
And Jerry, we're already seeing some substantial impacts from this storm. I know I'm seeing flooding across Florida already, heavy rainfall. So given that we're still almost 12 hours away from this hurricane landing, we do expect impacts to be pretty significant.
Right. They're predicting a catastrophic and deadly storm, so definitely one to keep an eye on. First and foremost, we're of course most concerned about the people in the path of the storm, and we're keeping them in our thoughts and hoping that everyone stays safe. But we do need to talk about impacts on the supply chain. Ports that have already closed include Canaveral, Jacksonville, Key West, Fort Myers, Sarasota, Panama City, and St. Petersburg. Tampa International Airport suspended flights on Thursday. On the other hand, some ports like Mobile in Alabama, Pensacola in Florida, and Brunswick and Savannah in Georgia are open, but with restrictions. Port Tampa Bay has also shut down its shipping lanes and vessel traffic as of Wednesday night, which was last night. They've activated their port heavy weather advisory group to stay on top of the storm and are working to minimize any disruptions to maritime traffic, including its cruise schedule. In their latest statement, Tampa Bay said that they're doing everything they can to ensure safety and protect the environment while keeping maritime commerce as resilient as possible. Kimberly, why is this particularly impactful for importers right now?
Yeah, well, like we said in our initial episode, we're in hurricane season, right? So we expect there to be some delays, impacts, disruptions, of course. But you could say that the timing of Hurricane Helene is a disaster of its own because we're approaching the deadline for the ILA contract, meaning September 30th is the last day that the ILA is expected to work along East Coast and Gulf Coast ports, which is exactly Hurricane Helene's path. We expect there to be a strike starting October 1st, since there has been no progress in these negotiations to date. So what that means is when you have the hurricane approaching tonight, timed with approaching that final week in September, if there's catastrophic damage or if the ports have to remain closed for several days, cargo that's already at these ports or expected to arrive at these ports are incurring their own set of delays now ahead of when importers need to move that cargo off the ports before that October 1st strike. So you can see how it can be a domino effect if you're trying to get your goods out by September 30th and you're just unable to access the ports due to hurricane damage. If you've got goods coming into the Gulf or the southern East Coast ports, you really need to be paying attention to Hurricane Helene, how it's impacting those ports, when will those ports reopen. If they're open right now, can you get your cargo moved in and out? What's the backlog looking like? All those things, just staying really vigilant for whatever cargo you've got coming in or out of these impacted ports.
And Kimberly, what's the latest on ILA negotiations?
Right. Well, the International Longshoremen's Association, or ILA, as we've mentioned on all of our podcast episodes so far, is negotiating their new contract. And there has not been progress made through those negotiations. So, what this means is we are expecting a strike to happen on October 1st. All of our reporting indicates that it's approaching. Carriers are making their own announcements of contingency plans or new surcharges that they're implementing to prepare for diversions or delays. Some of the surcharges that we're seeing are up to $3,000 for a 40-foot container. Some of them are lower, but definitely a substantial impact on businesses' supply chain and their bottom line that obviously many people weren't expecting. The strike is definitely something to be mindful of. We know that Maersk implemented their surcharge, which they're calling it a local port disruption surcharge. And that's for all cargo moving to and from the US East Coast and Gulf Coast terminals. And that will be effective October 21st, 2024. So there is some time, but we're seeing these impacts, different carriers making different announcements and different surcharges. So definitely going to be substantial impacts from this strike.
Is there anything importers can do right now?
There is and there isn't, which I know is not the ideal answer, but unfortunately, we are somewhat limited to what we can do after October 1st in the event of a strike. So, first and foremost, if you've got cargo arriving this week or up until the 30th, do everything you can to clear that cargo off the port by the end of the day, September 30th. We are expecting a complete shutdown of loading, unloading, container handling for more than half of the US container volume. So, some of these ports are extending hours of operations throughout the end of September. Work with your customs brokers, your freight forwarders, truckers, your warehouses to take advantage of those extended hours, accept cargo after hours, do everything you can to move your cargo by September 30th. Something to also be mindful of is when your cargo arrives into these ports, if it's a reefer container and the port shut down due to a strike, those reefer containers are likely not going to be monitored and charges will still accumulate for power required. And ports on the US West Coast and Canada and Mexico, they're already at capacity. So any space, if you're diverting, it'll be at a premium. So if you are rerouting cargo, expect delays due to the increased port congestion, and definitely discuss options such as ocean and air transit, where you can maybe utilize some air freight along your supply chain to bypass some of this port congestion, especially if you have urgent shipments. Some of the inland ports have also initiated embargoes for accepting export cargo. So you definitely need to be mindful and working very closely with your forwarder to analyze your supply chain and make sure wherever you're opting to reroute cargo will be a good solution for your cargo. Lastly, the U.S. Federal Maritime Commission has issued an industry advisory stating all statutes and regulations remain in full effect in the event of terminal closures. We'll go ahead and share the full advisory in the podcast notes, or if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and scan the QR code. And we'll also include a link to our latest newsletter, which goes more in depth into our client advisory regarding the ILA strike. You'll definitely want to read that for more information. And I'll just say reach out to your brokers, reach out to your forwarders, take a deep dive into any cargo you're expecting to arrive along the East Coast or Gulf Coast in the next 30 days.
Okay. Well, now let's give an update on the air cargo advanced screening reporting and how the air industry is adapting. We talked about these new air cargo requirements on our first podcast episode. CBP is requiring precise cargo descriptions and emphasizing the importance of accurate shipper and consignee information. From what we've heard, a lot of airlines are still in the process of unpacking and verifying requirements directly with CBP and TSA. And they're adjusting procedures as they go. They're really in a figure it out as we move forward type of mode right now. Most of them haven't set formal requirements yet, but they've told us they'll update the industry when they're ready. No exact timeline on that yet.
Well, isn't that convenient for every importer and exporter?
On IATA's side, they've mentioned they're working closely with CBP and TSA to push for a more reasonable timeline or extension so forwarders like us can meet airline expectations when that time does come.
Jerry, is there anything that businesses should be doing immediately, or are we in a true just wait and see pattern?
Well, something that we've heard emphasized from airlines is removing vague cargo descriptions, which we talked about last week. Right now, CBP is giving everyone a 30-day warning period, which ends October 6th, so that filers have a bit of time to improve the quality of data they're sending to CBP. But come October 7th, any shipment with vague descriptions will start getting rejected. CBP's goal here is to make sure that every cargo shipment includes either a precise description of the goods or the 6-digit harmonized tariff schedule code. They're trying to move away from those really generic descriptions like gift, accessories, parts, consolidated, terms that don't really tell CBP what's in the shipment. So going forward, if you're importing or you are a broker, if you're a forwarder, make sure to provide really clear and specific commodity descriptions when you're transmitting those messages before the cargo is accepted. As of October 7th, vague descriptions won't fly anymore. Literally. Shipments with vague or unacceptable descriptions to or through the US will get rejected. CBP has put together a list of what they consider unacceptable descriptions on their website. It's not exhaustive and it will probably evolve over time, but it does offer some examples to guide us. And just a heads up, it's not just about what's on that list. CBP may still flag a description as vague, even if it's not mentioned specifically on that list. So make sure you're being as clear as possible.
And Jerry, we will include a link to CBP's website that covers those latest details and that list for our listeners. We'll put that in the podcast notes again. So if you want to go ahead and dive into that a little deeper, just click into our notes.
Great. All right. Well, lastly, we're diving into a topic that's crucial for anyone involved in international trade, technology and your supply chain. Kimberly and I are the solution engineers behind K-Trace Technology, Krieger Worldwide's state-of-the-art track and trace portal. We want to briefly discuss the value this technology brings to importers and exporters.
Yes, I am so excited to discuss how K-Trace technology can transform the import and export landscape for our clients, and really for anyone moving goods to and from the US. If you're importing today or you're exporting today, if you're warehousing goods, technology needs to be at the forefront of your supply chain, really with anything we do nowadays.
For those unfamiliar, can you explain what K-Trace technology is, how it works, and how much it costs?
Yes, absolutely. So K-Trace Technology specializes in supply chain visibility and traceability. It's actually a free tool that we provide to all of our clients. And what we do and what our platform does is it utilizes advanced tracking and data analytics to give you real-time container tracking for all of your containerized shipments or your entries port to port on the water, detailed analytics of your supply chain, and it helps importers and exporters monitor their goods throughout the entire logistics process, from origin to destination. So it's really a comprehensive tool to give you the data and analytics you need to leverage to make informed decisions about your supply chain.
Right. This technology specifically benefits importers and exporters through enhanced visibility. Importers and exporters can track their shipments in real time, reducing uncertainty and enabling proactive decision making. It provides document and invoice management. We have improved communication through in-app messaging. It also helps with cost efficiency. By optimizing routes and managing resources effectively, businesses can save on shipping costs and improve overall profitability. And finally, risk management. The technology allows companies to identify potential issues early, such as delays or failure to return empty containers, so they can take action before it escalates. Kimberly, can you share a real world example of how K-Trace technology has made a difference for a client?
Yes, definitely. So we've had quite a few what I would call success stories from our clients. And just so everyone listening knows, K-Trace technology is something that Krieger Worldwide launched this year. And many freight forwarders or customs brokers and logistics companies have a wide range of analytical tools or client portals or dashboards available to you. And what we found is over the course of doing regular quarterly business reviews with our clients, we knew that on time performance was a top measurement for them. They wanted to know which shipments were arriving on time, how often we were predicting it accurately, measuring their trade lane performance, and that they made the right timing, whether it's seasonal products or project cargo. And then we found it wasn't only on time performance that was a top measurement, but then really digging into the cost, not just freight rates, right? We know freight rates are important, but beyond that, it's their total spend, warehousing, customs brokerage, their duties, looking into their bond. So having one comprehensive view for everything in a single platform was our goal. And that's what we created. So, some of the success stories that we've heard since launching K Trace this year, we've had clients that were utilizing third parties that would provide container tracking at a cost per container. They no longer have to use those services anymore because they get it for free through our platform, resulting in a huge cost savings for them. And then we've had other companies that were really struggling with communication. And they would send an email, hey, can you give me the latest update? When is this expected to arrive? But through our portal, not only are they able to find that information out in real time on their own 24/7, saving them the hassle of having to email and wait for a response or call their forwarder. They're also able to ask questions directly on the portal where it's tied to the shipment. And what I mean by that is right now, many importers or exporters, if they're looking for an update or if they have questions about their shipments, they have to send an email to their forwarder or to their broker, and they have to say, hey, can you give me an update on this? And they have to identify it by a PO number or maybe a shipment ID, and they have to sort through their inbox and make sure they're tracking the right thread. And now through our portal, they can message us directly through it. And it's like a floating bubble that just stays tied to that shipment, making communication seamless with our clients, which it's saving them hours from their week. And they're no longer having to sort through emails, going back and forth. And those hours saved result in also a cost savings because those hours are spent doing other things that positively impact their supply chain. I mean, if you think about some of these larger importers that are moving dozens of containers a week or dozens of containers a month, that's a lot to track manually through email. So having a really intuitive platform, it's a money savings because you're saving your team time. So out the gate, those would probably be the two biggest impacts that we've seen and the highest volume of success stories that we're hearing. We're hearing multiple clients come back to us and say, wow, this is saving me time. Wow, I don't have to partner with X, Y, and Z and pay for container tracking. So again, just showing how technology can really drive your supply chain with more time to do deep dives or just an overall cost savings without that container tracking by the container fee.
Great. All right, well, as we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts you would like to share with our listeners about K-Trace technology and its impact on international trade?
Yeah, I would just say in today's fast paced global market, having real time visibility and control over your shipments is crucial. I would say it's essential. Gone are the days that you can just wait for a call from your forwarder or broker or an email update. you need to be proactive. And we've been saying that during all of our episodes. Be proactive about tracking weather, or be proactive about knowing what's happening with the upcoming strike. Try and stay ahead of a very fragile industry, right? We know that disruptions happen at the drop of a hat in the logistics industry. So if there's a way for you to stay ahead, you have to take it. And technology can do that for you. You should be using it, whether it's through K-Trace technology, which we'll go ahead and include a link to it in our show notes again for you, or you can scan here to learn more. Or if one of your other partners is using a technology platform, any tools that you have, make sure you're leveraging them and impacting your supply chain. There's a lot of noise in the logistics industry and a lot of promises. And what we need right now is cold, hard facts. Where's my container? Where are my goods? When are they arriving? When can I move them? What's it going to cost? Having real-time visibility into that will improve your supply chain. So make sure you're just leaning into that technology, find ways to leverage it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Kimberly, for sharing these insights on K-Trace technology. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Cleared by the Kriegers, Coffee and Containerships. We hope these latest news updates help you crush your morning meetings and drive logistics decisions. Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes on logistics news and solutions. Next week, we're going to present an episode all about duty drawbacks.
Yes, we're so excited to share how businesses may be able to take advantage of this exciting program. If you're not familiar with duty drawbacks, tune in. And even if you are, tune in to learn more. Like Jerry said, subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. And we look forward to seeing you next week for more Coffee and Containerships. Bye.